Good afternoon, everyone joining in. This is our District 7 June webinar focusing on the tribal budget that was sent out in ballot form to all tribal citizens. So the intent of this webinar is to keep tribal citizens informed in the District 7. I'm Warren Wheaton. I'm the District 7 legislator. Welcome you all to our monthly webinar. Today we have the chairman, David Sullivan, as well as members of the finance team for the Kiowa Tribe, Michelle Babcock, Summer Palmer, here to answer questions about the upcoming budget election this Saturday. If you've received your ballot in the mail, please get those in the mails as soon as possible. And if you are voting in person, this is a recorded webinar. It'll be posted on our District 7 YouTube page for people to review as we get closer to the election cycle. This is meant to inform people. So rules for this webinar, only the panelists will be able to speak and unmute their microphone. If they'd like to share their screen, their background, they are able to do that. For those that are attending as attendees, we have a couple of attendees. If you have a question about the budget, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a question. It should look like a little bubble with a question mark in it. That is a Q&A box. Submit your question and we will either answer your question live or type out an answer if you'd like. Those are the rules for the webinar. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll be monitoring them. We will also just like to welcome Chairman Sullivan at this time. Chairman, any opening remarks for this webinar before we get started?
Oh, thank you, Warren. Legislator Wheaton, I'm very glad that we can be here. I'm thankful that this is our second, as you mentioned, second webinar to go over and just provide an overview of our budget. We're trying to do things differently than had been done in the past. We put the information out, and when I say differently, I mean that we want to have more transparency than has been developed or put together before. And so I will say that, overall, for the proposed 2026, 2027 budget, the Kiowa budget, we're looking at, a grand total of about 58,000.
58 million.
58 million. Let me make sure I clarify. $58 million. And, we publicly posted that along with the resolutions and, the summary as well as the line item budget. I know that hadn't been done in the past. And so we want to make sure that we're being transparent, looking out and getting that information out there, because I know that in order to develop the process that we need to do, we have to do that. But I will put a caveat out there that, because of the nature of our transition early on, really close to the time frame of when we needed to get this into the process for the KIC leading up to this election in this vote that will happen on Saturday, it left us with not as much time as we would have liked to make those adjustments, and there are still adjustments that we're going to need to consider. I've already fielded a number of questions from directors, and so we're going to go through a process, I know, but the main thing is we're working towards the betterment of our people, and we're making sure that we work this budget and that we begin planning for the next budget, and that it really reflects the true nature of all of our needs and areas that we need to look at, and basically really looking at how it reflects on our core tribal government operations, how it's going to reflect our self-governance programs, and then all of our our state, federal funded services, that we want to make sure we're enhancing and building to the point where it fully supports our people, in all of those areas that our main divisions, when you're talking about our health, education, our justice divisions, housing, and social services. So I'll stop there. And I'm just glad to be able to join everyone today. I know that there will be more discussion. I know over the course of time, I look forward to when we can have more in-person sessions and be able to go over these. Not maybe, I know we can't for this, but in the future, that's what I hope to do.
Thank you, Chairman. So let's just jump right into it. We had a summary in May for our last webinar on what everything entailed as far as like the ballot. But just to remind people, the first thing we see on our ballot is an investment fund. Casino Distribution shows a beginning cash balance of over 25 million in restricted, and it's listed under restricted trust funds. Would you or a member of your team please explain what restricted means in this context and what protections are in place to ensure those funds are going to be used appropriately?
Definitely. I'll give it, give an attempt. I know I will more than likely not do that part justice as opposed to some of our finance team members. But and when it is listed there, this is in the process for us to make sure that any of those funds that are brought into the process, and these funds, the 25 million plus, those funds were recently pulled over from accounts that came from the casino, and we list those there, but we list them not as part of the revenue, but they are part of a restricted trust fund, so that we can begin the process of developing an investment plan, and that includes a committee which we're looking at looking at ways where we can utilize those funds for long-term growth as well as immediate needs. And so I don't know if there's anything else that if any of the finance team, if they'd like to add in, Mr. Weaver or Ms. Palmer or Ms. Babcock, if there's anything else that any important points that I would need to add, that you'd like to add in.
So good morning, Legislator Wheaton and constituents. That those are revenues in excess of what was collected at the casino. The legislator worked with the chairman and they determined that those need to be put in reserve and trust where they can go to further the future growth of the tribe. And that'll be put in investment funds where they will be yielding high return interest. The average interest return right now over a period of time over a year typically is 4 to 9%. So that being said, with those funds being secured to back the operations, the future of the tribe, they will be there to ensure if any emergencies or circumstances, situations arise, but that will be the foundation of the investments of the tribe to continue the operations and the growth going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. We'll go ahead and jump to my next question. It involves, I will jump to the member services. Right here on the page, let me highlight it. Would you be so kind as to give us an explanation of what you mean by tribal member services? It's budgeted at 1.5 million. How were those dollars determined, and are they sufficient to meet community needs?
As far as that area, that would include, I'm trying to pull up my line item area as well, because those were the tribal member services. That includes our burial assistance, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up part of what I'm looking at, what I need to see here.
Do we need to go further down on the line item?
That would help, yeah. Rather than, because I don't have all of that. I don't have every part of it memorized, but
I know it's a 52-page document.
Yeah, I was pulling up that the other version. I can just click on
the other tab.
Here it is. It's got it on 17. It's got it on other costs.
Okay.
And it's posted here. So you see here, We do have elder payment. Oops, sorry. Did not need to highlight that whole area there.
If you scroll, I think it got cut off on this particular one. I think the next page shows that total where you'll see the 1 point.
Oh yeah, there it is.
But it's for
It's
the
right there.
Section
Yeah.
above. Okay.
But we are talking about this amount right here. The elder payment was at 1.1 million. I guess could you kind of explain why there are two different line items here?
Yeah, if I remember from our discussion, it was a couple of months ago when we were going through this in the discussions with our legislative body, and we were working on this, and we decided to transfer in this amount, this where it says transfer in supplemental elder payment, to supplement that amount from some of our reserves. And that's not something that, it may or may not always happen, but this was something that we discussed during this time because of, just again, the changeover from years prior when the last budget was actually approved, which was 24-25, if I'm not mistaken. And so that budget in particular had funds that we no longer had. And there were so many areas that were supplemented with those funds. And I believe the elder payment was one of those. And so to make sure that we had sufficient funds in those areas, that decision was made. And so pretty much that area, but that supplemental area, as well as for the AOA supplement, the higher ed supplement, those two areas are important for us. We want to make sure that our elders are taken care of. I did, and I'll continue to go. It's not as easy to do, but I know now if I'm not able to go, then I have Vice Chairwoman Ritchie, and I also have members of our executive team who can go, and we meet with them, try to meet with them as often as possible to make sure that we're hearing what their needs are and just looking over some of those things. So, those are important areas to supplement, and that's, to me, what I will continue to focus on, not just economic development, but that in tandem with making sure that our elders and that our youth are taken care of, that our language and our culture are focused on, and that those support services and areas that we need, that those dollars are itemized and identified and put towards those areas that we need.
Thank you, Chairman. And part of does that education supplement also cover back to school costs as we approach the fall timeline?
Yes, that will make sure that we have all of those costs covered for all of our districts, all the students and
to include District 7.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Definitely.
So the next question I have here is social services is one of the largest departmental allocations at over $2 million. What specific programs does social services support, and how is the tribe measuring whether those services are working for our tribal citizens?
So those areas, we are constantly looking into those areas of making sure that support structure is meeting the needs. I often hear from our constituents that they put in a request, and there was just they have yet to receive some response, and we usually that's very few, but there are still areas that we are always going to need to be improved upon. And so we're looking at these areas. Some of these are, we're looking at making sure that these positions are going to meet the needs of our people. And there are still areas that are I would just say they're under review still at this point. And so we have some of these line items in terms of, our assistants, the director of the Kiowa Gen program, that was what we were looking at in terms of our Healing Way. That was formerly a program that was put in place, but now we're looking at making sure that all of those structures are solidified and actually connected to authorizing legislation or making sure that it's going to fit. And so we have them in there at this point, but we're going to continue to review these and make sure that all of these pieces are fitting within the structure that we need for the exact needs of our people. And so again, we're looking at the main area that you see the bulk of this budget is, when you look at it, is in the burial assistance. That also includes the meals with a little over, I shouldn't say a little over, but it's over $1 million. And so those areas are, we did look into those and making sure that we have, that we have those supports in place. And I'm still looking at a lot of different things that we may not be able to fully address in this budget, but as we move into the upcoming budget, we'll have time to go through and have a deeper dialogue with our constituents and with our legislative members to make sure that we're hashing out a budget that truly reflects what we need to look at. I know in just the recent past, that early communication wasn't happening, but this year, this coming time frame and these next budget periods, that's going to happen. That's my goal and my desire to see all of that happen. And I think, let me see if I want to make sure, did I answer all of that question there? There were a couple of parts to it that you had talked about. I think I answered.
Yeah, I think you answered most of it. I just wanted, well, I did have a question here. Let me do a follow-up real quick, Chairman.
Okay.
On there was a Kiowa Jen. Is that the Director of Social Services? What is that?
No,
position title?
That was the position that, like I said, was formerly called a Healing Way position, Healing Way Director, or Kiowa Healing Way, and that was developed by our in our former administration. And so that's an area, like I said, we're looking at a lot of things in relation to that, how that's going to continue, but that is not the HHS director position.
Okay. It was just a question. I had it listed under there.
Okay.
So let me go back up. So this is a large document. It takes me a little while to get through all of it. So let me, and like I said, if there are citizens that have a question, I'm going to go through. I'm now going to move on just a brief overview of all of the branches. Let me zoom out a little bit. So the executive branch, this is just so you know, this has not been done before, as you said, Chairman. A line by line item. The former administration did not share their salaries from the with the tribal citizens. They only shared the overall number. But just to kind of let people know, you have chairman, vice chairman, the executive assistant, and then you have the executive directors for all 4 divisions. That includes the Kiowa Education Agency, Health and Human Services, Housing and Community Development, and then the Executive Director of Tribal Operations. On the line item you see here, there is General Counsel, but that is zeroed out at this time. And that you're talking about, you used to be called the Attorney General, right? Is that correct, Chairman?
That's correct. And after we reviewed further, we were able to determine that was a position that was not authorized or connected to any authorization through the Constitution or legislation. And
Sure.
So it made more sense to have General Counsel. So we've made those changes, and so you see that reflected there in the budget.
Thank you, Chairman. And we have a treasurer position. Chief of Staff is also not established by statute, but it is on there and it is zeroed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have an outreach coordinator who works in Oklahoma City. That is also part of the executive branch budget. And then, of course, we have all the fringe benefits that go with those positions, as well as travel and training, professional services, and the professional supplement. Would you kind of go into a deep dive what those line items
Sure.
are?
Professional services, that line item is there in the event, as you know, in our economic development process, as we're looking to work with individuals that can assist us in certain areas, especially if, you know, once we've gone through a deep dive and gone through due diligence to make sure that these are areas that we are really moving into and making sure that we have a solid plan moving forward with areas of whatever that may be, then that can provide a little bit of that support service for us to provide the whatever that may be, if it's consulting of that nature. So we're, that particular area is listed, and as I said, we are making sure that we're really going through a vetting process, and we're communicating with our legislative body, because it needs to be done, and it needs to be a transparent process. The supplemental part of it is to address areas within our current budget. We know that we cannot fully reflect the needs, the cost of living needs that our people need. Some of that, in order to make sure that we get the professional individuals that we need or can maintain them, we need to be able to supplement, because they're, we don't have housing in our area. We don't have, so it requires some travel time. And so we want to make sure that we have that supplement listed there so that it can help support and make sure that we're getting to the point of cost of living adjustments and basically market analysis levels that reflect and help us be more competitive with our services that we need. I know that may not be easy to understand unless you're in, if you're not in a setting like we are, but, we can continue to discuss. We can continue to, if you have questions about that, we can continue to look into that. And then the line item of legal services, that's where, we moved from having that, those funds listed up as an individual item where it was in the Attorney General line item. And then we had supplemental legal counsel or legal services. Now all of that is combined into one area. And so we'll continue to operate in that way. And I've continued to, from the point that I took over, that's the process that I've looked at and have operated from.
Thank you, Chairman. Let's jump down to this line item. This is land acquisition and real estate. Could you kind of go into a deeper dive of what that is?
I can, yes. In the event that we, a lot of times in recent past, I know we made one attempt to go for a certain piece of property that had significant cultural significance to the tribe. We were not able to achieve that purchase, but that line item is there for areas that would allow myself as the chairman to go ahead and make those quick purchases if we need it. If it's something that is, again, if it fits within our overall plan and our strategy, and a lot of those processes should and will continue to have, where that communication process already happens and takes place among not only the executive branch but the legislative branch, so that we're moving on the right path, and that we're making sure that it aligns with the overall strategy that we want for the betterment and the improvement of our people. This fits within one of my main focus areas, and that is to increase our lands, to make sure that we have one of my main goals is to enhance and get us to the point where we have significant lands in a contiguous process instead of being mixed and interspersed between, in a pattern all over Southwest Oklahoma. I'd like to begin enhancing our lands so that we can utilize those lands for health areas in terms of increasing our bison herds, increasing our environmental impact on the lands, and whatever else we may need it for. But that's where that line item would allow for that. And if we ever needed to do something that would be a little larger, then we'd have to go through other processes. But this provides just a line item here on the executive side. Excuse
Thank
me.
you. Oh, you're good, Chairman. Thank you very much. So, and the rest below that is office supplies, utilities, communication, and we do have a small fund for hospitality as well. So that's kind of the overline of the executive branch. I'm going to move on to the I'll do all four branches first, and I want to jump down. So we're kind of going into the legislative branch next, which I can kind of talk to, Chairman.
Okay.
Just to kind of let people give an overview. So just for those citizens that are listening in, we have a legislative branch, and this is an overview, and each district gets its own budget. We do have a legislative branch that oversees, but I'm going to kind of jump through, kind of let you know what this all talks. So here's the payment scale for each of the legislature, for each of the legislators, as well as we have a small an administrator who makes $60,000. Let me go ahead and highlight that right now. That's our legislative administrator who works at a Lawton, and then all of our districts get an office manager too, and that's their pay scale right here. So all of the 7 districts get the same amount of pay, and then you have your office manager here, with the exception of District 4. And I think that was due to a cost of living increase, a discussion that we had last fall. Fringe benefits right below that comes at, all those salaries equal up to $813,000. Then you have fringe benefits at $251,000. All of our legislative travel and trainings are divided up amongst all 7 districts at $40,000. Then we have legal services, which comes out of one fund for the legislative branch, office and equipment, $20,000, and then we have office supplies at $20,000, utilities at $84,000. So kind of just jumping down, the legislative office expenses, all these funds here you see under other are divided amongst the 7 branches. So I'll give you an example. I'll use my own as an example. If we jump down, let's talk about the legislative branch itself. We have the administrator who makes $60,000 per year, and these are the costs. Legal services is a bulk of that budget. The budget at the bottom says $352,000. That includes all the legislative fees and costs incurred by operating the actual branch itself. So we have the fringe benefits, which includes a Christmas bonus, legislative travel and training, legal services at $185,000. And then we have a small fund for office equipment, office supplies, utilities for the legislative office out of Lawton. And if you look below here, it goes into like office expenses. They do have a GSA, and then some minor funds for an intern and hospitality, etc. at the bottom. So the only person paid under the legislative branch's budget is a legislative administrator. I'll jump down to my budget and kind of let you use that as an example of a legislative budget so people know and understand. As a District 7 legislator, there's my salary at $63,654. We have an office manager, Tara Bigbo, that's her payment. If you work down, we get I don't get a bonus, but my office manager does, because we're already getting a salary. We don't, as legislators, we don't get a Christmas bonus, but there's the fringe benefits. And then you can kind of see all the legislative travel was divided up amongst the 7 legislators, as well as training. So my travel and training budget is about $5,000. I do not receive any professional services nor legal services. In my own personal budget, we have an office equipment budget of $1,000, office supplies of $2,500, communications and utilities about $1,500. And if you go down to the bottom, other is office expenses, $30,000. And then at the bottom, you see postage, copier, and then hospitality. So the overall legislative budget is broken up amongst 7 districts. So my total budget at the bottom is $202,000. And we'll go through the judicial branch budget. Perhaps maybe Chairman, if you want to talk about the judicial branch, what what each line item is, maybe that'll give us an overview of what each of the branches, kind of just an overview of the branch itself.
Sure, I'll address those areas as best I can. And I invite, and also before, I don't think I did before, but I wanted to thank Mr. Weaver and Ms. Palmer and Ms. Babcock for joining us and putting their time into helping us and making sure that our constituents have the information that they, will help them in the upcoming decision process for Saturday. But as far as you can see, the court administrator is zeroed out, the court clerk is zeroed out. Those funds will be covered through other federal dollars, as far as I know. I could be stating that incorrectly. I didn't get a chance to sit in on every part of this process when this was being developed with the former administration or former chairman and the finance team. But as far as you can see there, the chief judge is full-time. That's $168K. And then we have our part-time chief justices at those, there are 5 of those listed. So you have that broken down into 250,000. We don't have that broken out, and then a part-time associate judge at 75,000. And then the fees are listed out for our 5 judicial commission members. And right now we have 3, and I'm working on making sure that we have 2 more. I'm looking and asking for folks that are interested. So if there are any of you that know of, or you have an interest or a background that could help in this area, be sure to let me know. And then you can go on down into the line item areas of fringe, travel, and training. I know there's some of that is required, and so we want to make sure that we have sufficient travel and training line item dollars listed. And then, you go on down into those other areas below. I know that in a few weeks, I'll be meeting with all of them. I've met with some, primarily Chief Justice Onko and Chief Judge Mitchell recently, along with the commissioners, but I'll be meeting with everyone in a couple of weeks for one of their on-site quarterly meetings. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to meeting and just determining where we can help in areas along with the work that our judicial branch does.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the KIC, and then we've got our first question from one of our constituents. I'd like to get to an answer for that person. So let me we're just going to go over the Kiowa Indian Council budget, and then we can kind of come back to that question here in just a second. Okay, so on the screen now, you're seeing this is what the Kiowa Indian Council had submitted for their budget. They have a part-time coordinator, $26,000. There is no KIC secretary. There's no money for that. It is a line item, but they didn't put any money in there. So fringe benefits, some travel, some equipment, about $4,000 for any office equipment, office supplies, and just basic administrative cost for operating an office for the KIC. The actual meetings itself, they do incentives for citizens that attend those meetings. It's about $5,000. Hospitality, since they feed the meal at their meetings, it's about $12,000. And then you have money set aside for any special meetings should they be required. And then the annual meeting, the administrative fees is also put in there. And then professional services, I think if there is a need for contracting in any way, that is a line item for professional services. So the total budget is $117,965 for the Kiowa Indian Council. So Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and go to our first question, and I'll scroll back up. There's a Mr. Silverhorn. It says, I think you're talking about other cost. It says total entry under other cost was 2.705. Can someone explain what we have? It's confusing due to 2 pages. So let me go to that other cost again. Give me just a second. I'm having a little bit of. Are you still able to see my screen, Chairman?
Yes.
For whatever reason. Okay. I think he's asking, well, what is this total entry? So I think you're talking about all these numbers here, Mr. Silverhorn, is what all the numbers here that I'm highlighting. Those are the numbers that would add up to that amount. Is that correct, Mr. Weaver? So like because it's 2 pages, if you look at the first one where it says other programs.
That's right.
You look at other programs, all from building, property and insurance to Indian City maintenance, that number would be that 1,515,000.
Yes, that's correct.
That is correct. And then the other one would be elder payment, and then the transfer in here. That would be the additional $2.2 million. And that is really to add up to keep our elder payment at around $1,000 per person. And then if you go the AOA supplement and then that higher ed. So this number right here, Mr. Silverhorn, that adds up all those numbers into that one number. Hopefully that answered your question. Is there anything to add to that, Mr. Weaver?
No, Legislator Wheaton, you are correct. It just wrapped like that because of that extra column. So the page cut off and it just wraps it and rolls it to the next page.
Okay. Thank you. And it also said, Mr. Silverhorn also said, in listening to listening to the conversation for the meeting started with Robert Little, is Robert Little still involved with this budget in any way?
He wasn't involved with the budget, as far as I know. I don't remember
its
him.
Creation or its approval
No,
in any way.
Involved with that I heard. As I said, I wasn't involved with every meeting, but I know the finance team would be able to tell you the same thing, that he wasn't involved with that at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Legislator Wheaton, no, there's no outside involvement in this budget. This budget is formulated by the chairman, then submitted to the legislator for review and submission for approval. So
correct.
There's 2 sets of eyes on it, the original with the creation, and then the collaboration, and the final acceptance comes from the legislator.
So we don't contract anything, especially with an attorney. They would not have any input in this budget at all.
No.
You are correct. That is a no.
Okay. So we do have a question that I'm going to jump down on my screen here. And again, for any constituents listening in, if you have a question, just send it in the box and we'll be glad to get that question answered. Okay, it says here. Oh, I just need to go to the top. Sorry. Well, the question is, the Gaming Commission receives 1.2 million in regulatory fees. Would you please give us a description of what that oversight role is for the Gaming Commission and how it plays into or protects our tribal revenue and the integrity of our casino operations?
Definitely. Yeah, the Kiowa Gaming Commission is integral, and that was a function or an entity that was required to be placed in there through the NIGC, and due to recent events, I shouldn't say recent, but recent past events that were taking place before we had the KGC in place. And so those individuals are, their function, we have our commissioners as well as we have the employees who are there to go through and make sure that they're regulating the gaming operations on a daily basis as much as possible. It may not necessarily always be a daily basis, but they do go in and monitor in terms of auditing. They're making sure that they're helping to determine individuals and making sure that they run the background checks, and it's significant. A lot of what the individuals that have to qualify for our gaming operations, it's quite significant. I've been told that it could even be more than some of our other areas, and rightly so. It needs to be. And so I recently met with them and met with the gaming commissioners as well as our casino leadership to make sure that we're calibrating and aligning on certain things like some of our vendors and the way those operations go. And there will be continued developments and continued meetings to make sure that all of our structures within that particular within the Kiowa gaming operations, that everything is moving in a positive direction, making sure that we have that clarity and that's the accountability there for not only just the current operations, but for future development. And there is the question coming up as far as the expansion. And so, I know that doesn't necessarily relate to all of these areas that were in the question, but it does have, to me, it provides the context that you need in order to make sure that as we move from into these new areas of making sure that we're operating efficiently, effectively, and that the dollars are coming into the tribe as they should be, making sure that the operations authority, they're monitoring and doing their part, and that the gaming commission is monitoring the operations authority as well. So it's very vital, and I'm glad that we have that. And so they're always, I think if I remember right, off the top of my head, I think we need a couple more commissioners. And so I'll be looking at that and making sure that we get all of those individuals in place. Could be wrong on that one, though. I've been looking at quite a few of our commissions and boards
So
recently.
I think one of the questions was, we just wanted to see, I guess when we look at the gaming commission line item budget, the expenses, they have an office. Where's that office at?
That office is located in Lawton. It's over there in that area. And I think, I know we'll be looking at that in terms of making sure that, we're updating, getting a little more line item listed out there. But I know there is some there, but as far as this budget, that wasn't listed. But we have all that information.
Okay. Mr. Silverhorn has another question here, and going back to other. I'm going to scroll back up because this is a long. He said something does not add up in these numbers. If we're saying like this 1.5 million, this 2.2, this 70, and this 391,000, that should be over $4 million. Is that correct? What am I missing?
Let me see if I can.
It's a question for finance.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This has to do with with these numbers here and how it pertains to the first page. These are broken down similar to when you go, it's kind of hard when you have your PDF, but if you're able to put them side by side.
Do you want to share your screen? Maybe?
I don't have this one open. Let me see if I can try, but
okay.
What happens is on the first page, the first or second page where it shows the summary, it breaks down those other items. Like I believe one item says, here, let me pull up one.
Oh, I see. So
Right,
What
you know
we're
where
saying-
it breaks it
what-
down where
what-
it says other.
What we're looking at is other costs here only add up for that $1.5 million, the 70,391. Make up that.
Correct.
Okay.
So it breaks it down where on the first page it says other and it shows, you know, that first set of.
Oh, I got you.
1.5.
Do you mean to go back to the first page then?
Yeah, let's just take a look real fast and I'll try and find the
Okay.
other side. Let's see where it shows the other. I think it's a little, okay, right there. So see how like the first three line or even the line items, that first 1.5 million correlated with the other page of that first section that was 1.5. And then you have your elder payment, which is 1.1. And I believe the second part of that elder payment is the transfer in from the, actually we might need help from below, but I believe it comes from the other programs down below. And then the 70,000 also correlates with the AOA supplement. So it's broken down in a way where it's showing from different streams and different expenditures.
Under revenue.
Correct.
So this transfer in,
I believe I might need. Might need some help with Summer on this one, but I believe that the elder payment from the other, that's where that 1.1 is coming from, and the other side is a transfer in supplement, which is coming from a different section.
so it's coming in from a different, it's like a,
Right,
what's
it's there, but it's right, it's pertaining per the different tabs.
Part of the transfer ends, yeah.
Okay.
sorry, I know PDF is, working on a PDF it's hard to kind of show it on here.
It's a little bit more difficult to have two pages at the same.
So we're not adding up all those numbers on that one page because that would be over $4 million. That's correct?
Yes, they're all separated.
Okay. Okay, there might be a follow-up question to that. Or if we want to get to that at the end, or Miss Babcock, even if you want to answer that further, if you got like an example or something later on,
Okay.
I'd be willing to let you know. Yeah, thank you. Because I get his point, you know, like if he looks at it, it looks like a total, it's adding all that and it should be over $4 million. So we want to make sure we're clear on that. Okay, so I'm going back to the budget. So we had another question here. And again, for any constituents listening in, I'm just going to start, and that concludes the questions I have for right now, Chairman. So, oh, we do have another question. Hold on a second. Can they show us one page that has everything on it? Okay, so he wants to see one page for the other costs that has everything consolidated on one page. That's what he's asking for from finance. So Michelle, if you can kind of get that together maybe, or Summer. However, he just wants to see it on one page and kind of explain it from there. If you can kind of figure out, Wade, I can help whenever you're ready, just send me a chat message, Michelle, and I'll give you the permission to share your screen.
Okay, or let me find some clarification. Is it to show the other?
Yes, the other costs like the elder payment, the tribal member services, kind of break that down because when you look at the line item budget, it looks like it's totaling all that up.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find the.
And if it's supposed to be over $4 million, it doesn't reflect that.
Right, okay.
Yes, that was due because like elder payment, AOA, and higher ed, they're all listed separately
Mhm.
on their own on the front page. So that's why they're listed separately on this page as well. And that was under the direction of Chairman Spotted that he wanted those line items specifically separated.
But on the line item budget, it looks like it rolls them all together on that same page.
Yes.
Okay. So we're just trying to, let me scroll down. And I don't think Mr. Silver, he's wanting an answer like,
See, like you see, if you scroll back up, the top section, all of those are lumped together.
yes,
The
and they
other
make up
ones-
this number right here.
Yes, and then the elder payment and higher ed and AOA, those are listed separately on the main page. That why those also separately.
So what number comes up with this 2.7?
I'm not sure. I believe it was the last three. I can't have to pull up the actual spreadsheet.
That's what he's asking, is what this number here is, 2.7 million?
Yeah, that's correct. Those are the last three. And
Okay.
so I'm trying to figure out how do we go to the front page? If you want to go
So
to,
what you're saying is like this 2.244, $2,244,000 plus the $70,000 plus the 391, that makes this number right here.
correct.
Yes.
So
Okay.
when
Now
you
we go to
do
the front page.
They're listed out separately.
Okay.
and it should then record to the 4.2 million.
Well, it's
Okay,
leaving
so
out the other
I see
1.5.
I see right here. So his question, so you see like the tribal member services, Mr. Silverhorn, that $1.5 million is by itself. So what they on the ballot, it's not adding, it's the last three numbers. So like this 1.122, the $70,000 and $391,000. Those are the numbers. But there's actually another number here that we're missing on here.
Right. And the other number is because it's a transfer in
Yes.
from a
And where's
different
that?
department.
Okay. So it comes out of another budget.
Right, correct. You can't
Okay.
show it in the same because it's a different, and is
Yeah.
it below summer or is it above? I'm trying to figure out.
It's the remaining ARPA money that we had set aside.
Okay, correct.
And where's that at, Summer?
If you could scroll up, that would be helpful.
Sorry about that. I'm going too fast.
Do we have LA2CF? That's partial. Oh, right there, trust fund burial. 108. Oh wait, no, that's elder. It's a transfer in from ARPA revenue.
So we're saying that $1.2 million is a transfer in from ARPA revenue.
Yes.
Okay. So those three lines, so like the when you talk about, I'm gonna go down here. This is so hard to do on PDF. What you're saying is because this transfer in here is coming in to supplement the elder payment, these two lines. So like this is about $2.2 million plus the 70 plus the 391. Those all add up to the $2,705,000. That's what we're saying there.
Right, and legislator, if you want to stay on the page below, and
Uh-huh.
is there a way to pull up a calculator? Because you could show where if you're going to enter in your calculator the 1.1 million plus the 2.7, I think you'll be able to show our participants, how that adds up to the 4. I think the question is where that 4 million.
Yeah, I think he's just wanting to know like how it looks on this page, like if you add up all these numbers, it'd be over $4 million. But what we're saying is this is a separate line item. This 115
Right.
or 1.5 million is separate from these bottom 3.
Yes,
Because
correct. And
it's
those 2
it's
highlights
listed
you
out.
have
Yeah.
then turn out to be the 4.220 million that they, that's where they're finding that number from, is just
Correct.
theirs. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. So let's see if there's any other questions. No, there are not. Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. I was just saying, Chairman, we're going to start with law enforcement now. I'd like for you to hit any highlights. You would like to talk about any changes, anything that is important you'd like the constituents to know about these line items.
Okay. Yeah. The law enforcement, as you can see, most of those numbers, hold on, it went smaller. Most of the numbers that you can see there are, there's not any funding there listed in the tribal side. And the reason for that is the bulk of those areas are covered through federal funds, and which would include several grants, quite a few grants that they've been receiving, as well as BIA funds. And so you can see that the plan is to continue to grow that particular department, and we meet regularly and make sure that we have their the needs that we have. And I know and I've recently met with the BIA leadership at the self-governance conference, and we discussed the shares and the various steps that we need to do to make sure that we're putting all of the best processes forward for our to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our people. Of course, we're still in the beginning stages. This is but I think a little over a year old now, as far as having the Kiowa law enforcement in operation. And so we're looking, we know that we still need to meet, and I meet with them regularly just to make sure that we're connecting on the needs that they are requesting. And it's just a long process, but it's something that we're very glad to be able to say that we have a Kiowa law enforcement. Let's see, I'm looking through, trying to see through the line items if there's anything that I would want to look at. Or
I think everything else kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we're just I just want to make sure, like, some constituents may have had a question like, why isn't there any money? Why aren't we paying our police chief? Well, the answer is he's being paid, but from a grant. And so we're kind of just putting a line item in to kind of lay out the structure of our police force. But should those grant funds be yanked back, you never know what might happen with law enforcement in the future. If that funding agency does not receive that funding, there may be a modification to this budget in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the whole purpose for, working to, continue to reach for those federal dollars or other sources, but also increase our own tribal revenue through various operations and plans that would increase and give us diversity beyond just our gaming operations, but but that's still a process that we have to work through. But you're right, in the event that there was ever, some major reduction in those federal dollars, then we would need to definitely make some immediate changes and figure out what we would need to do. Hopefully we won't, because we definitely want to look into not just the expansion of our law enforcement, but also related and connected to this area is our emergency management. And so I meet with them regularly about making sure that we expand that area as well, so that we have not only staff but resources ready to go in the event of a natural disaster or anything that would come up, that we have plans in place, that we have resources set aside, and that in the event of anything that would happen, then we can go into action and protect our people and provide for our people in various capacities, whether that's temporary shelters or shelters that as we know, we have a lot of natural events here at times, and so we need to be ready. So I know that's reflected here within this budget, but eventually we want to make sure that we make that a little more of a distinction between how that looks, but we're still growing.
Thank you, Chairman. But just to answer Mr. Silverhorn's question, we are not, these positions are already being paid by grants. So there are 9 positions. I think he was asking, are we ready for that? So the only question, or the only positions we're being paid through this tribal budget, is the executive administrator for law enforcement, the law enforcement grant specialist, and then the law enforcement coordinator for $155,000. Everyone else is employed but being paid through a grant at this time. So we answered that live. So we'll jump down to the next budget, making sure was the election commission's budget. So we only have one full-time employee, and that's the clerk.
Right.
There is money for a part-time assistant. There is no money added to that at this time. Most of the money on their budget is only about $300,000. It's $319,000. The majority of their budget goes through, I think, their third party, or that electric ballot machine at $150,000. And then meeting fees for the actual commission itself over the course of a year.
Right.
Anything else that I might have left out, Chairman?
No, I don't think so. Other than, we're just continuing to, not necessarily in just the budget context, but just to make sure, we're going to continue to meet and align for future upcoming elections. I know there were some issues that were worked through, and the commission, we had to work quickly to put commissioners in place, and we now have a group that are going to continue to work towards making sure that our future elections run smoothly. I know that they're not always going to be without issues or errors, but that's the process that we do, and they work hard to make sure that everything is working in a good way, and they'll continue that. And I don't know if that's, I'll just say I was told that this might be the first time that we will have all 7 commissioners in place, because we just recently confirmed the District 7 commissioner, and I think we're in the steps to get her not confirmed. She's already been confirmed, but get her to sworn in.
Get sworn in. Correct.
Right. That will happen in the next few weeks or so.
Okay. So the next item on the budget is the enrollment line item. We have 2 employees, an officer and a clerk.
Yes.
And their salaries combined of $135,000. Fringe benefits comes in at 48. That does include a bonus. Additional staff, though, what is their role? Do we know, Chairman, what the additional staff person does? Is it just a clerk that also?
more of an intake at times. You know, there are times where they need extra support, and so that
An intake clerk or
Yeah.
office.
that's my understanding. Unless Mr. Weaver or Ms. Palmer or Ms. Babcock, if you can reflect on the addition of that, if there was anything that I'm either not recalling or if there was something additional to that particular line item. But as far as I know, it was an intake, and that would be proposed because we don't have anyone there currently.
Okay. So that's just kind of setting aside additional staff person should they need it in enrollment.
Yes, Legislator Wheaton, I think the discussion was when they were going through that they identified that when they go out, they now have the capability to be mobile. So when they go out to do enrollment and things of that nature and do updates at meetings and at the districts, that they would have an additional person to be able to assist along with them there. And so that way it wasn't an ongoing position, but there was funding to identify when they needed additional staff to go out and assist them.
Okay. So the bulk of the enrollment goes towards salaries. There are 3 staff members, as well as those fringe benefits that cover those staff positions. As training and travel goes about $3,500, equipment and supplies about $11,000. Then you have utilities, communications. And at the bottom, you see software packages, postage, and then copier and maintenance agreement, about $6,100. For a grand total of for the enrollment office is $207,000. We'll move on to historic preservation. There's 1 staff person paid currently, and that's the director at $55,000 they make per year, and attached is their fringe benefits. And then at the bottom, there's a tab here for $30,000 for professional services. Do you happen to know what that line item is utilized for, Chairman?
My understanding is, in the event that, when our TIPO officer goes out and there's any need for services in terms of any site contracting, that kind of thing, then that's what that's for.
Okay. Site contracting, when they have to, then they might have to go out and survey a site,
Right.
Paying for the surveyors, paying for the equipment, etc. Okay. The museum has 2 staff members. Their salaries combined are at $76,000. Their fringe benefits come up to a little under $30,000. Travel and training at $3,200. Pretty much standard stuff for the museum. They do have a little bit more money set aside for exhibit cost and restoration, and then miscellaneous. I don't know, Chairman, you might clue us in what miscellaneous costs might be involved in the museum.
Some of that could be, I'm reflecting back on the conversation as far as, miscellaneous items, where they, may need to, let's see if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm also going back to when I used to serve on the museum board, and when, just knowing how, they do have, I was looking at it one more time before I say they have exhibit costs for restoration, but, sometimes there are fees or related expenses that relate to, gathering in new items that are out there at certain places. And I know just recently we were talking about we just got through having the teepees. There were 4 teepees that were restored to us, and so
Okay, yeah.
I know the TIPO officer works in hand with the museum, and so some of that could be looking at paying for the housing or the storage, because right now we don't have storage for that. We don't have an in-house adequate facility, so we have to rent
Okay,
that's where some of that could be that we just don't anticipate.
sure. Okay. And then our language department, our Kiowa language department, we have, looks like 4 staff being paid out of the tribal budget. The director, a media specialist, material editor, and then a language liaison and translator. All those staff members come up to about 165. So there is some assistants, language assistants, teachers. Are those just positions that are they currently being funded by another grant, or is that something that we want to work towards eventually?
No, those are being funded by a current grant with Office of Indian Education.
Okay.
And so that's where those are listed there.
Okay.
There may be some changes to that, of course, with grant funding, but we're, and we're working now with to look at some of those language teachers that those costs may be covered by district partnerships down the road. But for right now, they're covered by the grant.
Okay. Thank you. So we have the 4 staff that are being paid out of the language budget as we speak. And then we talk about fringe benefits. So when we say fringe benefits, you're talking about health and life insurance, 401k, payroll taxes, workers' comp, and then their Christmas bonuses. So
Yes.
For those 4 staff members, it's about 62 grand that we're budgeting as a projection, what we would spend in fringe benefits for those individuals.
Right.
And then you have a line item here for professional fees, language advisor. Can you kind of give us a quick overview of what that might be?
Yes, the language advisor, I believe that has some connection with our, with those individuals that work with OU. I want to say, make sure I'm pretty sure that would be Mr. Pulaw, as well as some of our elders that work. I know there's some of the credentialing board that is somewhat of a different
Down here.
item. It's listed down there below, but as far as the advisor fee, I'm pretty sure that's Mr. Pulaw, but in that
Dave Pulaw.
9,000 may only be, that credentialing board may only be for those monthly fees, but I'm wanting to say that may not be the only source of that. That doesn't seem right as far as the amount, because I know I think there's more that when you have those members, I see those costs each month, but I'll double check on that and make sure.
Okay. But there is a credentialing board, like those elders are paid for their time and a meeting fee from the credentialing board budget. And then language candidate training, like for when they have their language candidate, if you're a language candidate and you go before the credentialing board, there's some costs associated with how that training goes, preparation, and then the cost for this administering that training.
Definitely. And they continue. I know they're working with those candidates still to this point, and making sure that they have, they're receiving the training so that they can reach that point of being eligible to, and where they're certified in the Kiowa language and able to move into a role within a school district or whatever that might be.
And I think that the professional fee for a language advisor, Dane Pulaw is plays a critical role at the language department there at OU.
Right.
And he's really good at coordinating with the credentialing board and the candidate training. So I know that I used to work with Dane at OU.
Right.
He's been there for a long, long time, but even as a language teacher, you're not paid. You're only paid if you are teaching a class, and in the summer, sometimes we may need to utilize his professional service with the language department for those summer months to kind of help him out as well. So
that's
just something to consider when you're talking about that language advisor. Natural resources. So there are 4 staff members under the Natural Resources Department, director, coordinator, specialist, and then administrative assistant. And I'm assuming like there's a water technician that might be paid from another grant. Is that an assumption on my part? Yeah.
Definitely.
And a gap coordinator.
Definitely. Yeah, those are supplemented or paid through when you don't see anything there. They're paid through the federal side, and then those others that are, you can see they're pretty low for a director or coordinator. So you know that those are supplemented through federal grants and other grants as well.
Okay. And then the health and life insurance fringe benefits. So we have a question from one of our constituents online. I'll ask this question while we're talking about fringe benefits. Could you explain what fringe benefits are? I remember saying that they need to be cut. It's pretty important to have employees. So could you explain what those benefits are? And in case constituents don't understand what those are, would somebody from finance like to answer that, or yourself?
Well, I'll just say, they're somewhat required to them. You can't just modify it to a degree, but that's part of the process. When you do have employees, you don't want to cut those fringe benefits because that's part of the process of being able to get our employees that we want, and we want quality people to provide services to us. So, but I won't go into a long process for that, but I do, as far as, one for sure, you got to have that line item included for taxes and compensation, workers' compensation, and that kind of thing. But I'll stop there, and if any of the finance team, if they could add in more, that would be good.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we haven't cut any of our fringe benefits. That health and life insurance is doing the cost that we cover of the premium times 12 months. So that's what it takes per position and per the months. So we have a formula that updates that number.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And in addition to that, Legislator Wheaton, down in the payroll taxes and things of that nature, you have what's called SUTA, which is state unemployment tax that you have to pay to the state, and in FUTA, which is federal unemployment tax, which you have to pay to the federal. And then you have the FICA, which has to pay into the Social Security, so that the calculation of the 40 periods can be calculated and recorded, so that when someone gets to an age of retirement, they show contributions and are able to participate in Social Security.
Thank you very much for that response. Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Okay, so that was just a question just popped up since we were there on fringe benefits. So I have another question here. Are there any tribal employees or individuals who receive more than one of any of the salaries in this budget?
More than one of any of the salaries in the budget?
Yeah, like for example, is there, like, for example, natural resource specialists? I think anywhere in the tribal budget, they're asking, is there any employee getting two salaries?
I don't believe so, but I'd have to go in and dig around in that. Is that something either any of the finance team could answer?
Yeah, you're correct, Chairman. We don't. If anything is based off of their salaries, it's by labor distribution. So they might have, a certain percentage, but nobody is getting one from the other without, a percentage.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for answering that question. And okay, so the next question, while we're on here, another fringe benefit question. Can you please explain the 401k program?
So I'm going to defer to one of the finance team members for that. I think that'd be a better one answered by them.
Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily call it a program, but the 401k is just also a benefit, a fringe benefit that we offer, where the employees can have a certain percentage taken out of their paycheck in order to go towards their 401k. Now, the tribe does have a policy within our fringe benefits where they match the 3% if you contribute 3%. And therefore, when we do our budget, because you don't know the percentage of what someone is going to select for their paycheck, we have to do it at the max of 3%. So the calculation is just those total salaries times the 3%, and that's how you'll get that number.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for answering that question. So below that, after fringe benefits, we had travel and training at 10,000, services, professional services, legal services for natural resources at $8,000. And I'm assuming professional services, just like, if natural resources is going out, just like travel, historic preservation, if there's a need to contract for any kind of, survey work, tree removal, something for them to kind of go in there and make an assessment or do some work, that's what that professional services line item would be utilized for.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then equipment, a lot of that is just office administration. And at the bottom, you have a lease for their vehicle, and then subscriptions. When you're talking about subscriptions, I'm assuming like membership to an organization, those subscriptions.
Yes, or
professional,
some of their
licensing, maybe
platforms and different things that they use. I know they have a very promising platform that allows us to track current oil wells and different things related to just natural gas and different things that we need to know. We're able to track our lands, and so it's a pretty nice to have that option or that platform. So whenever we have a question, in the past we used to have to go to the BIA, and usually the response was we didn't get a response most of the time, or it would be way after the fact of when we needed it. So now we have that in place.
And we had already talked about the social services when we had those questions before, but we'll cover it again. So social services, there's an assistant. Is there a director for social services?
There is. That's as far
Alicia, Ms. Codaseat.
Yes.
Is she paid from a grant?
Yes, as far as I know, that is she's paid through that, as well as but yeah, that's different from, I was going to say Dr. Smith, but that's different in that area.
So I just, I had seen that other programs, we always had a line item for that position on there. That's left off of here, but we do have a director of social services. She's just paid from the actual 638 grant.
And I think, again, that's where, when we have a chance to move into this new budget, we'll have that consistency and have the time to go through and ask these questions on our side before we even get it to this point where we'll say, yes, these positions are here, and they're not, because a lot of these positions were submitted by the directors or, by the executive director. So we need to we'll have a better process of going through and reviewing and determining all those areas and making sure that consistency is seen and reflected.
I think we're going to get there, but okay. So I'm reading the questions. There's a lot of questions here. Okay, I'll get to these. Well, let's go on to, we'll come back to your question, Ms. Anderson, here in just a second. So reentry program, our reentry program is for those that don't know, we do have a program that helps citizens that were incarcerated kind of reintegrate back to tribal life. And so there's one program director, $61,000. And then the rest is all, that's the highest, looks like besides the assistance that's provided, there's $80,000 in assistance. What sort of assistance are they provided right now, Chairman?
Let's see. That particular area, as far as reentry, that could range. Of course, it's it can range from temporary housing, assistance in whatever supports. It would kind of vary based upon the individual. And I may not be, I may need to have a little bit of help from our finance team in this particular area as far as some of those individual line items, as far as, just based on what I recall, you're talking about temporary housing assistance, food, those kind of things, and however long that goes to, I know that the guidelines are listed there, and that reentry director follows that process. And but trying to remember off the top of my head. Okay.
Yes. So yes, Legislator Wheaton, Chairman Holden is correct. There are various things that some of them need when they're released. Some of them need to get identification, driver's license, they need shoes, or they need clothing. So when they're released, some of that stuff is not provided to them. Sometimes they need transportation to the housing that they're going to be allowed to stay in. So there's all kind of arrangements that the tribe has with organizations and group entities that will help assist and transition them back into society.
Thank you for that question. I got another series of questions from some of our citizens.
Okay.
So one of them has to do with Kiowa Gin. I know we had talked about that before. What is the director of Kiowa Gin? Can you talk about that? Who is the director, and is this a new position?
That was a position, like I said, that we had that. It was at one point developed by the former chairman, and we already had that person in place. That's Marcy LaFleur, and that person is primarily, that grant or that position was designed to develop this initiative that was there. We still know that it's a function that we want to keep to a degree, but we're, as I said early when we first were talking about I guess addressing the earlier questions, that we moved it. Originally, there was a plan to have it where it was its own department, but we realized that there were the authorizing legislation, everything, there wasn't anything there that was already set. So that was something that, again, that was set up by the former chairman. And so we still had the individual there, but at the time we went ahead and moved that back into this particular area because it fits within that area. But that is still a work in progress as far as how that's going to function. As I said, the line items are there, but as far as the funding source, I'm looking at a lot of different things now where when it comes time to modify, if we go into a modification process after we move into this, if the budget is approved and everything moves forward, that we make sure that, with the feedback that we receive, whether that's going to continue or not, or continue in a different structure. And that's why, it's listed now as former Healing Way program. Again, we want, as I mentioned before, this fits within a structure of making sure that we have a solid plan in place for enhancing our culture programs, making sure that we have a language program and connecting the healing process of those to our people that need healing. And so, of course, we would want to use, some of the more traditional methods that you see, such as the counseling, some of the things that you see in the American or larger systems of the world that are used, but we want something that is designed for us and through us and by us. And so that's why we chose to continue on with it, but it's in a fluctuation state where this part or this particular funding cycle would be more of a planning phase where we're gathering input. And that's why you see down, let me see if I look down in where it says community outreach, that line item down in other, that's where we would have, excuse me, we put funding aside where we would have outreach meetings, community gatherings where we could go and receive the input from our people to plan this out and help design it. It's not necessarily a program that's already designed. It's a desire to move that forward. So that's where I said it's not something that's just already locked in and set in definite terms. I apologize for my coughing. I'm starting to.
Okay.
My allergies are starting to act up a little bit. But.
So this question is kind of with that. What is, who is director of Kiowa Gen? It says that this person also says the salary. I noticed the salary is higher than the other director positions. So her question, or this person's question, there's no name associated with it, but they want to know what is the justification for the high salary for that.
The justification that was set in place by, in that former budget time frame, or whenever all of this process was put into place by the individual that was hired. And, again, that was determined at the time by the former chairman that had that in place. And that salary was even higher than what is reflected here. So this is a scaled down version of what the intention of is for, again, the planning process and determining where we need to go with this
Okay.
long term.
Thank you, Chairman.
So Legislator Wheaton, if I could speak to that to provide
Go
a little
ahead, Mr. Weaver.
clarification. When Vice Chairman Sullivan, who's now Chairman Sullivan, came on, there was a discussion of a vision to have a wraparound services for all the tribal members that needed it. When I say wraparound, we have multiple health services, social services, drug and alcohol programs, reentry programs, but they all operate as separate. And what the vision was to create body that would put all those together, and that when a tribal member would come in needing such services, if they needed to be reentry, they could start with reentry, and then they could go get mentoring to mental health, and they could go get social services, then they could get health services, and then they could get drug and alcohol. So the tribe has all those programs available for the tribal members, but there was no collective way to get them all together to identify what a member would need and to walk them through a process from beginning to end. And so that vision was there, but it didn't manifest fully. And so that's where now Chairman Sullivan is saying he has to go back and get with the people to see what they need versus just creating it. So it's kind of in limbo, but that's what he's working towards.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Some more to follow on the Kiowa Generation Program. We're going to go. We did have another question from his constituent. So currently, what does burial assistance cover?
Let's see. I'm going to refer to one of the finance team for that.
I believe it's on the social. Is it on the worksheet? Oh, see below how. Oh, it just says it includes meals.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is there's the burial, the flowers, and then meals that are included with that burial assistance. Someone else could help me if not, but I
think
believe
we're taking the flowers out. We're just paying for the meals.
Oh,
meal
perfect. Thank you.
assistance, and then burial assistance.
Yep.
And no more headstone.
So burial assistance covers the burial and the meals.
Yes.
No more flowers, no more headstone assistance.
Yes.
Thank
that
you
was
very much.
funded through ARPA.
Okay. We're going to jump down here through the veterans position. So there are 2 staff members paid through the Veterans Department for a total of $69,000. And then you have the fringe benefits that is attached to their employment. That looks like to be the major cost associated with this program. And at the bottom, you have veteran services and transportation and vehicle maintenance. So they do have a van that gets maintained by the tribe. Veteran services, I'm assuming like when people need help, maybe some veterans assistance for a bill or something, they are able to assist with that on a case-by-case basis. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm my understanding. Mhm.
And then we have the Kiowa Tribe Youth Development Program. Looks like there are two staff in this program.
Yes.
There's the program director and then the activity coordinators. That's the bulk of their budget. Their total budget was $149,000. Looks like the bulk comes from salaries and fringe benefits. And at the bottom, you see sponsorships and events. They do pay for some, I think, their activity fees, memberships, and dues. They have an after-school program they fund at $10,000, and their youth council that they've established also gets $10,000. Anything else you'd like to highlight on here, Chairman?
The main thing that that I not necessarily highlight, but just give some context that it's a different grant, but a lot of the youth council members and the positions that you see listed here are integrated into our Boys and Girls Club as well, which was just started this year. And so, they've been very active. The youth council, they're active in locally, but also in being participation within the United National Indian Tribal Youth Network, Unity. And so they're gearing up for plans to work and attend the 50th anniversary of the National Unity Conference coming up. So looking forward to seeing that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Tax Commission, we have 5 people that are paid for the Tax Commission, the director, office manager, we have a tax clerk, a file clerk, and then gift shop also has been moved under Tax Commission, looks like, because there's a management position. So Tax Commission has those 5 salaries at $272,000, along with the fringe benefits at $84,000. And looks like the tag supplies, when you order new tags, that would be the major cost going out, and below it looks like $30,000 set aside for ordering new tags or creation of new tags.
Right.
Anything else on here we need to highlight, Chairman?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I am pleased with the gift shop process and how that's grown and developed. I'm glad to see how that's working.
Thank you. Yeah, we went through the other costs, and then we already went through the legislative costs and kind of broke down, how much the branch is being paid and then each district's getting. So I'm going to scroll down a few more pages here. We went through the judicial and the Kiowa Indian Council budget. So administration. So when we talk about administration, are we talking about just the tribal administration? This is, Can you kind of break down what this is?
This is out in the, we have our receptionist that we have out in the front entry there in Carnegie, our records management director, and the assistant, those are, vital for us in making sure that we maintain our records and of course is our receptionist there, the face that greets our visitors that come to the complex. And so we're glad to have them there. And, we make sure that, we have the proper supports for them all the way through, as you see, through all the various line items that are listed there.
Chairman, I have another question.
Okay.
So I noticed we talked about reentry. Where was the KDAP and the TOR budget?
KDAP and the TOR budget are, I think, if I remember right, they were not able, they didn't get submitted in there in time, if I remember right.
So those grants did not get submitted in time?
Well, the grants they're in federal programs, so they're not going to show up in that tribal side, that tribal share side. And so that's where,
okay.
You're not going to see that per se on this part.
Okay, I got you. Sorry, I had misunderstood you. So you're not going to see that on the tribal budget because it comes from federal funding.
Right.
I think we need to
on this part because of that particular area. but there is the
Okay.
budget. It's already lined out through the federal grant system or structure.
Okay. And sorry, I'm having a hard time with my computer wants to slow down on me here. Give me just a second. I'm trying to scroll down. My scroller's kind of, I may have to log out and log back in. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to bring it back up. Sorry, y'all. I'm having my computer is like, I have the spin wheel going and it's not wanting to cooperate with me. So just give me a minute. Gosh, I felt like we really got on we got in a flow and then this happens. Come on. Okay.
I think we ended on page 33.
I'm going to get back to that here. Just a second. I may have to just scroll out and do this by page. I'm sorry, Michelle. It's like moving like 2 seconds. It's moving like, yeah.
I was trying to think.
So
do
we
you have
ended on,
attached or okay. Yep, 33. There you go.
there we go.
If it continues to lag, I'll try and see if I can share. I just got to find this attachment.
If you can share. Okay. So we had already talked about administration. So I'm going to move on down to the next page, which was finance, I believe. Sorry, folks, for those that want to stay on, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. Due to technical difficulties, we're having for whatever reason, my computer wants to go very slow at this time. Oh, there we go. Okay, finance. So we have all the finance. Gosh. back up here. Michelle, do you or Mr. Weaver, do you want to kind of briefly give us the highlights of the finance budget?
Sure.
I can speak to the finance budget. So
Okay,
typically,
go ahead.
the finance budget has several positions. Many of them are unfulfilled, but they're very needed. So we decided to go ahead and budget them because we do need these positions, and hopefully we can fill them. Most of our expenses relates to the audit. So that's mainly our number one expense. And like we're indirect programs, so we don't really, have events or, programs or anything. We're just here to support the other departments.
I'm going to stop and I'm going to let Michelle. Michelle, do you want to? Can you find that attachment?
Yep, I'm just trying to, was it attached, or I'm seeing if Tara could send it over real fast?
I just used I used from the website.
Okay, let me see if I can grab it real fast and I'll share.
Yeah, it's just on the homepage.
Sorry, I'm just
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just having a hard time. I guess because it's a PDF, I'm having a hard time scrolling up and down.
It might be your internet as well, because I think you're kind of breaking up a bit with the voice, so.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Is it on the District 7 webpage or
The
Kyla's?
homepage.
Of your legislator or the Kyla tribe?
The whole website, just the
okay.
Kyla tribe. Yeah, it's like midway on the page.
Perfect. Here, let me just do this. Let me grab out some stuff.
Yeah, I think it is the internet because everything's slow.
Now let's see. Are you able to see my screen? Should just be the internet or the page?
Yeah.
Is it this one?
The one below it is the line item breakdown.
Oh, breakdown. Thank you. Perfect. All right, let's go to page. Oops, I'm sorry, I don't know how to zoom the thing. Let's see. Sometimes this word's in the way, and we'll go to number 33. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll. Okay, so we have finance. Oh, were there other questions on this page?
I think you just highlighted it already. You were kind of showing what we were being paid,
Right.
and everybody can kind of, yeah. And then let's go on to the next one then. Because we only got a few more minutes, but we're going to stay on a little longer. Human resources. It looks like we have about 6 people that are paid in human resources. As part of the tribal budget, comes to about $311,000. We had fringe benefits. I hope you can hear me okay. Am I coming in broken, Michelle?
Yes, you are, but we'll try and piece through it.
You can go ahead and try to just give us an overview, and then maybe Tara can help us with the questions.
All right, I'll try and explain just the pieces if anyone has questions, basically in the similar format that you did, legislator, and we'll just go from there. But yep, we have the human resources. Looks like these are the positions that they have stated, and this is on the tribal budget side. Again, we have our fringe benefits and then other areas pertaining to human resources. We've got our Paycom service that is used through here, and that concludes the human resources. Okay. We've got procurement, similar fashion. We've got 4 positions in here as well. I don't know if all of them are filled, but they are advertised. So we have our procurement, Same breakdown. And this would be their budget.
Legislator Wheaton. I think he's gone.
I
Oh,
think
no, I'm here.
he just
I'm
muted.
here.
Okay. One thing I would add in there on both of the procurement and the human resources budget is that Chairman Sullivan is working to bring all the entities of the tribe back under to flow into that. For example, like the KGC would have all their hiring through the tribe HR, and the procurement would have housing and all those elements of that flow through the tribe's HR, so they could all be uniform.
Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Weaver. I had to jump computers here. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to take over as well, or you want me to still just
No,
scroll?
continue on, Michelle, for just a
All
minute.
right,
On
here
the
we
next
go.
page. Thank
All
you.
right, improvise it. So we got procurement. I can't see the questions, so if you have any, just flag me for it. But we've got grants and planning. So we just have those positions under here as well. We've got our grant writers, director, operations, and then this is their budget that includes fringe, training, and any other items. We've got our IT department. Within this department too, we also have for law enforcement. I know per their, I think it's either their grant or their department, they do require other specific IT, whether it's safeguards or firewalls. So we have a specific person for that department. And you'll see that you have those positions available along with fringe, our software and infrastructure that we have to maintain for all the employees. And so that is what's in the IT's budget.
I do have a question here
Perfect.
for what is the position listed for administrative assistant for administration? What does that position come from? So we can go up to administration.
See.
Under Kiowa administration?
This one?
Yes.
Let's see, you might need some help. Which one's this person?
Do we know who the administrative assistant is?
Isn't that Carla?
That's Carla Lewis? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the other question was for Chairman. What is the rationale for eliminating the headstone assistance in the burial assistance line item?
The only rationale is that we don't have the funds that we had before. That's part of the problem when you start programs, when you have funds, you know, for instance, I know that was covered through ARPA funds, and we had just quite a bit of funding at that point due to the nature of the pandemic and everything. And so it was something that had to be done. And the goal is at some point to continue that or to increase it, but we're going to have to make sure that we, as I've said, and oftentimes in other gatherings or other times when I'm addressing our overall outlook and direction, is to diversify our economic drivers at, you know, beyond just our gaming, so that we can have the extra supports, those extra dollars that come in. And we don't have it at this point.
Okay.
Any of the finance team, if you have other additional comment on that, I'd welcome you to add in. If not, it's fine. I think I pretty well addressed. That's the only reasoning. I mean, we just don't have that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, let's continue on, Michelle, and we'll have some other questions at the bottom
All right.
we're down here.
So we've got our media and outreach. Looks like there is the 3 or the 4 positions within here, fringe, and the different costs associated. Right, we have security, the positions, and the costs that associate.
So most of that goes to just salaries and fringe benefits, the highest cost.
Right, within there's some supplies of some things that they have. I know their equipment, you know, they've got their radios, surveillance, and so.
Okay.
So we have maintenance. We have quite a few of our maintenance crew that's in here. We've got their fringe and then the different associated costs we have with maintenance. This is going to be more of the supplies, building maintenance, different tools and equipments that they need to use.
Okay.
Oh, we're coming towards the end. So we've got the KCOA positions here for their board members, and then the expenses to follow. And then this is also the note for those meeting fees. No questions for those. We've got the gaming commission.
Yeah, we covered that one already with the employees and the 3 commissioners.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's good. And this is their breakdown line by line as well.
Okay.
That folds up into this, so. For their operating, and then,
Oh, that's still the gaming commission budget.
yep, I think they put both in there, so there was a comparative year for
Oh,
everyone.
gotcha.
Yeah, these are hard when it's
Yeah,
not
because it
per
counted
page. Yep. And this is the housing, so we have the amount in there to show as well.
Okay, so let's go through our list. We got a lot more questions here, Michelle. If you can still drive the actual,
will do.
So where is the re-entry program currently located? I think the citizen's asking, like, where is the program located physically? Chairman, do you know where that program is located physically at this time?
That's currently located at the main office in Carnegie. But we also have, you know, that's more of, any of the, you know, if any services are needed, that can be something that people can access at our Anadarko HHS office or our outreach office there in OKC. I know that there is quite a few, outreach materials are out there listed. And so the connections can be made, you know, to be able to get those services to our individuals that are citizens that need those supports.
Who's the current director of the reentry program? Do we have one?
I believe that is still, I'm sorry, let me look at something real quick to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Yeah, that's still administered there, but the acting director right now is Carla Lewis. But again, that's going through all of our health and human services offices, our outreach offices, but that individual is of course housed there.
So Carla Lewis is being paid as the official administrative assistant for the administration, but she's just filling that role as reentry director.
Yes, as far as I know, that she's acting under that point. And,
is there a plan to fill that position?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, those are some of those areas that are still remnants of former administrative developments and the way things were structured, and so we're moving towards getting things changed and updated and following the proper process for, like I've said before, that lines up with our policies and procedures, our legislation, and then our ultimately our Constitution.
Okay. So question, are any of the KDAP or TOR programs being cut currently?
No,
I think I misspoke, and I think I when I said that, those programs are not being cut.
no, they're just not reflected on that tribal share side.
Because they're 100% federally funded. Can you
Yeah.
show us that, Michelle, where those programs are? So like KDAP, $280,000 is what's funding for the KDAP program. And then TOR. I know this is difficult to kind of mitigate. I've been driving it.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if it's the self-governance or the
Tribal opioid
correct.
response.
Yes. Do you see it? I'm trying to say.
It's very, very small on my computer.
Mine too, sorry.
Is that a transfer in
We've
opioid
got the
settlement?
transfer in for that part, correct. So it is
So I guess-
reflected.
So I guess the question is about those. We wanted to make sure that those, I wasn't misspeaking and saying those programs aren't being cut. They just are not funded by tribal
Correct.
funding.
Yep, they're not
That's
cut.
fine. So the next question is the 25 million. Can we go to the top of the summary since you're there? So like the investment fund, casino distribution. I think can you kind of give us a quick rundown of what that was? Some people joined late. I'd like for the chairman to kind of readdress that question. This was the first question we had, and kind of for the people that are online now, would you kind of give us an overview of what that is again? If you want to defer to Mr. Weaver, we can do that too.
Yeah, I'll provide as far as an initial overview, and then I invite Mr. Weaver or any of the other finance members to add in. But those funds are listed there, and they're listed. Let me zoom in a little bit more. They're under that restricted trust funds, and they're shown on there to make sure that we have, that our tribal members see that, and those have been designated to go into a fund so that we can begin to invest for future as well as some immediate needs. We've already discussed some of that earlier, but those are there so that we can begin the process of investing, eventually develop a plan for a revenue allocation plan. I know several legislators as well as myself, we've been discussing that and working towards that for the long-term growth of our tribe. And so we're working through the proper steps to make sure that we're setting that up for not only a permanent fund that could eventually fund our government, where we're not having to rely only on federal dollars or just some of our existing income. But the goal of that is to work all of that in tandem with new revenue generators, aside from our casino. But again, we're following, and we're basically looking and making sure that we're structuring all of this in a plan that all of our constituents are involved in, and make sure that the feedback that we need is included so that we can move forward in a solid way, making sure that we're going through and putting the due diligence in on any of the processes we choose to endeavor into in terms of whatever that might be, whether it's looking at environmental related developments, looking at broadband infrastructure developments, anything that can help our tribe but also help us generate some revenue, then we're going to look at that. But in terms of this particular distribution amount, this came over from the casino that had been sitting in an account for some time, non-interest bearing account, but now that's being corrected, and we're through the process of between the branches. We want to have our investment committee and process to make sure that we're investing those dollars and that we're growing that amount, and essentially increasing and developing ensuring some sustainability for our future rather than us just.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
Has there been any yield percentage yet identified with this investment fund?
To my knowledge, no. We are still in the planning phases of getting all of that put together, and so there may be some because of it's actually now in a different account, and I'll defer to Mr. Weaver on that, and I'll stop there because I know he can give a little more detail on that part as far as where it is now, what that looks like, and where how we can move forward with that, because I know that amount there that's growing on a day. I know we discussed this in our first webinar, and
sure.
so I'll stop there.
Mr. Weaver, would you also we had a question along with this with this investment fund, would you kind of give us an idea of what it may be yielding right now, and would is there a plan to let the citizens see the investment portfolio maybe quarterly in the future?
Yes, sir, Legislator Wheaton. So in the future, once these funds are placed in trust, that would be information that's made available to the legislature and the chairman, and as well as the tribe members. The vision is to place it in 3 components: a growth fund, which would be growing advance for the future, a trust fund, which would help back operations in the case of an emergency, and then a operational cash management fund, which would be liquidity cash. You wouldn't have to lock it down for a period of time, but it would be available upon emergency operations, services, and situation. Currently, those funds reside in our treasury account, which is yielding at last check, I believe it was about 3.6% or 3.4% interest. So that interest is being compounded daily. What you see reported here was at the point in time the budget was created, and it's probably appreciated since then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weaver, for that answer. Got a question about information technology technician. Are they located, or are the IT techs located throughout the buildings and centers that are located in various towns? Where are those IT tech people located at?
So, Legislator Wheaton, they primarily host at the complex, but they are dispersed out as needed to locations. They don't remain on site all the time, but there's at points and days and times that they need to be on site to set up infrastructure and security and things of that nature. But the majority of the servers are hosted at the complex. I know that there's a remote location out in Verdon, which is natural resources, and they have their own server on site there, but they're all interoperability and connected. And I think they're also working on getting something set up for the HHS location in Anadarko as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question here. Can we go to the housing? A couple of questions, actually. We can go to the housing budget. Under the housing budget, the question is, what does POH stand for underneath the housing budget?
Oh, let me see if I can. Do you know what line item POH?
There it is, right there. Major rehabilitation. I'm sure. I think that's called. I think that's privately owned homes.
Oh, okay.
POH should stand for privately owned homes. And then, what is the Anadarko project? Scroll down a little bit. Oh, that. Go ahead. Whoever wants to talk to that.
I don't know fully. I just know that this is part of a grant. So let's see if there's some identifiers in here.
The main areas that I don't know if you can, where I'm at, there's a maintenance team outside with a blower, so I don't know if you can hear that, but
No, you're fine, Chairman.
the main area that as far as I know for that Anadarko project is looking at setting up the homes there near the old golf course or on that old golf course property where you have the child care center. And so I believe that's where those grant dollars are, are looking at. I think that's as far as I know, because I'm trying to look through the line item there and make sure that
Is that Anadarko project where the old golf course used to be located?
yes,
Okay.
that's what my understanding as far as looking at some of those, some of that hasn't actually started yet. So
And then in regards to that, I guess would that house? Well, I guess is that part of that grant program? If those houses are being built in that area or constructed in that area, would those houses or those services be based upon income? And I'm sure it would be, right? Because
yes,
in the housing program, they have income guidelines that would
definitely, yeah. That all follows the same process that they, for the most part, they've always had to do, which is follows those federal guidelines for how that works for determination and that.
And as you
Go
know,
ahead.
sometimes those NAHAs, those income guidelines prevent people from getting help. So is there a plan to supplement housing with tribal funds for those who may fall out of income guidelines and need help?
It's a growing plan. That's part of our, Vice Chair and I have been talking about all of these areas, and the process of transitioning out of, the change from a couple of months ago, and just looking at areas that need to be addressed that, I would say we have in our, in our wheelhouse or what we're trying to develop and address now that we're already here. I don't want to say it's, we're just trying to address a lot of those areas and get past that. And then we are moving into as well planning for how, all of these areas are going to address. We're having individual meetings with our executive directors, so we have the executive director of housing and community development. We've met with her several times and just continuing on with that for each of those particular areas, health and human services, education, operations, and then also meeting with those other areas that may or may not fit within those, such as law enforcement and some of those other departments. And so we're in the formation stages of getting those plans in place that will help address those needs again. And as I was saying earlier, also enhancing or increasing our revenue generating resources that can help with that. So where we do have those funds, whether it's this or it's looking at Headstone assistance or anything else that we can look at. And so it'll be a process over this course of this year and coming years.
All right. Well, thank you, Chairman. Well,
sure.
We've went about 15 minutes over the scheduled time, so I'm going to close out for questions. But I want to thank everybody for attending today. Sorry, I had a little bit of a technical issue. I had to jump computers. My computer was slowing down, and I want to thank Michelle Babcock for taking over and kind of walking us through sharing the budget. Again, I want to encourage all of our District 7 citizens, get those ballots in the mail, or if you're in District 1 through 6, go and vote this Saturday on the budget itself. Anything in closing, David, you'd like to say?
Sure. I'm thankful that for everyone that joined. I know that, this can be a lengthy process as we, it took this amount of time just to go over some of these these elements, and it's a long document, of a lengthy document. And so I appreciate you for having this and hosting this, the second one. I know this is something that it's a beginning phase for what we want to do in the future, and start sooner so that we can really work through some of these questions early on, and making sure that, like I mentioned earlier, we want to have that consistency, and just making sure that we're including our long-term collective outlook for our future growth as the Kiowa tribe, and making sure that we're moving towards just a greater sense of our sovereignty and moving to what we want to do. So I'll stop there. I thank you again. I thank you, Mr. Weaver, Ms. Babcock, Ms. Palmer, for joining us and assisting. I tried to make sure that we had every part of this covered as best as we could, but it's always helpful to have those individuals with that expertise. And so,
Yeah.
And also to your assistant for providing the support that we need today. So
Thank you.
I'll stop there and just say aho to everyone.
Thank you, Chairman, Mr. Weaver, Michelle, Summer. Thank you for joining for our citizens. Just encourage you to get on the website under the legislate or the page itself. You can read the actual line item budget. And also, if you want to reach out to me, you can email us at district7legislature@kiowatribe.org. Ask questions, but with this recording will be posted to our YouTube page for anybody to kind of go back and review. And thank you for your time today, and I wish you all a great day. Hej gå imorgon då. I hope.